When I returned home, the house was quiet, wrapped in the stillness of the late hour. A soft lamp cast a warm glow from the living room, but Chloe was already asleep. I crept into the bedroom, the moonlight striping the floor, and watched the gentle rise and fall of her chest. I didn't have the heart to wake her. Tomorrow was her birthday. Tucked away in my briefcase was her gift, the new smartphone she'd been wanting. Her old one had a spiderweb of cracks across the screen, a casualty of a drop from months ago, but she was too frugal to replace it. She had a ritual. Every morning, she'd make me a cup of coffee. Usually, the aroma would be my alarm clock, followed by her soft voice calling my name. My plan was simple. As she was preparing the coffee, I would place the gift box on the counter, casually, naturally. I had even rehearsed the line in my head. A little something for your birthday. Open it, and see what it is. The next morning, I awoke before dawn. I moved like a ghost, barefoot on the cool hardwood floor, the gift box cold in my hand. As I descended the stairs, a strange sight stopped me in my tracks. Chloe was standing at the kitchen counter, her back to me. In her hand was a tiny glass vial, and she was carefully emptying its clear liquid into one of the coffee mugs. When the vial was empty, she didn't toss it in the trash. Instead, she closed her small hand around it, concealing it in her palm. I pressed myself against the wall, my heart hammering against my ribs, and watched. She placed that specific cup on my side of the table and set another one down for herself opposite it. We always sat like that, facing each other over coffee before I left for work, and she disappeared into the basement to paint. She was an artist, her canvases filling the cellar with color and emotion. What had she poured into my cup? Poison? It seemed impossible. What could she possibly gain by killing me? This suburban villa was in my name. We weren't legally married. If I died, she would get nothing. I treated her with nothing but kindness and affection. Our life was harmonious, our passion for each other fulfilling. She had no reason to harm me. Even if she had found someone new, she only needed to tell me. I wasn't the kind of man to cling desperately to someone who wanted to leave. Perhaps it was some new kind of coffee flavoring? But if it was, why add it only to my cup and not her own? She slipped into the bathroom and closed the door. The click of the lock echoed in the silent house. Seizing the opportunity, I moved swiftly to the table. My hands trembled as I switched the positions of the two mugs. They were identical, a matching set we'd bought together. After 3 years, even I couldn't tell them apart. I crept back upstairs and into the bedroom, my mind racing. A moment later, her voice called out, cheerful and unsuspecting. Ethan, you're going to be late. Shoving the phone into my bedside drawer, I called back, coming. When I came down, she was already seated, a gentle smile on her face. We sat opposite each other, raising our mugs in a familiar, silent toast. We drank, the coffee tasting no different than any other day. After we finished, I watched her, searching for any sign, any subtle change in her demeanor. There was nothing. I started to berate myself. How could I suspect Chloe of something so monstrous? It must have been a new sweetener, something she wanted me to try first to see if I noticed a difference. She probably just wanted a genuine reaction. Regret washed over me, a bitter taste in my mouth. But it was a silent mistake. As long as I never spoke of it, who would ever know I'd switched the cups? I smiled, the guilt making it feel strained. Honey, wait here for just a second. I hurried upstairs, retrieved the phone from the drawer, and jogged back down, my heart lighter. But when I reached the bottom of the stairs, the world stopped. Chloe was on the floor. A choked gasp escaped her lips, her body convulsing. Her eyes, wide and unseeing, stared at the ceiling. White foam gathered at the corners of her mouth. The gift box slipped from my grasp and clattered onto the floor. I scrambled to her side, my fingers fumbling for a pulse at her neck, her wrist. Nothing. I grabbed my phone, my thumb hovering over the emergency number. I pressed call, heard the first ring, and then, in a moment of cold, paralyzing clarity, I hung up. A woman was dead in my house. My house. She had died from poison, from a cup of coffee meant for me. There were only 2 of us here. When the police arrived, I would be the only suspect. And the most damning fact of all was that I had, in effect, served her the poisoned cup. If I told them she was trying to kill me and I switched the mugs, who would believe such a far-fetched story? I could barely believe it myself. I had no motive for her to want me dead. A cold sweat broke out across my body, and an uncontrollable shiver seized me. My villa was isolated, with no neighbors for miles. Barely anyone even knew Chloe existed. She was a recluse, spending her days in the basement with her canvases. If I buried her in the garden, no one would ever know. My mind, in its panic, had already selected a spot. But not today. I had a critical meeting at the company, one I had to attend within the hour. My absence would be a glaring red flag, a piece of evidence against me. Later, I glanced at my watch, the ticking a countdown to my own damnation. It was summer. The heat would accelerate the decomposition. I had to preserve the body. I dragged her limp form to the large stainless steel refrigerator. Pulling out all the drawers, I cleared a space. I had to bend her limbs to fit her inside, her body curling into a fetal position. The sight struck me with a horrifying sense of déjà vu. It was the same way she had been huddled under the old sycamore tree on the coastal road, that freezing winter night 3 years ago when I first found her. I loved her. She wasn't a conventional beauty, but she was gentle and possessed a playful spirit that had breathed life into my world. I felt as though my entire life had been a prelude to meeting her. She was as precious to me as life itself. Looking at her now, folded into the cold confines of the refrigerator, a sob tore from my throat. As the door sealed shut with a soft hiss, a wave of regret crashed over me. Why had I switched the cups? I could have simply not drunk the coffee. I could have confronted her, called the police. Then I would have been the victim. But now I was a murderer. I had killed the woman I loved. A sharp pain lanced through my head, as if a blade were twisting inside my skull. I collapsed, kneeling before the refrigerator, and wept uncontrollably. The piercing ring of my phone jolted me back to reality. It was Leo, my business partner. I fought for control, swallowing the lump in my throat before answering. Ethan, are you on your way? Today's meeting is crucial. This investment is everything. I know. My voice was a raw whisper. I can swing by and pick you up. I don't want you driving alone today. I've told you, I'm fine. I can manage. I know you are, but I'm heading that way anyway. What's the problem? Don't worry, I won't come to the house. I'll wait for you at the turnoff. It's settled. He hung up before I could refuse. He knew I was private, that I disliked visitors. Even deliveries were left in the secure box at the main gate. Leo's place was only a few miles away. He would be here soon. I closed the refrigerator, took a quick, scalding shower, and stood before the mirror, forcing myself to compose my features into a mask of normalcy. The phone rang again. I'm at the turnoff. Come out whenever you're ready. I walked to the front door, then hesitated. I went back to the kitchen, pulled open the refrigerator for one last look at her still form, then slowly, deliberately, closed the door. I stepped out of the house, locked the door behind me, and took a deep breath of the sea air. A short walk brought me to the coastal highway. Across, the road was a grove of sycamore trees, and beyond that, the vast expanse of the ocean. My love for the sea was the reason I'd bought this house. I opened the car door and slid into the passenger seat. Leo glanced at me with a smile. You look terrible. Didn't get much sleep. I was up all night tweaking the proposal. Ethan, this is all on you today. Don't worry, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I've got this. The meeting was a resounding success. The moment I stood before the investors, a switch flipped. The Ethan who had just stuffed his lover's body into a refrigerator vanished. In his place was the consummate professional. My thoughts were sharp, my logic impeccable. The investors were impressed. They committed to an initial investment of $130 million. After we saw them off, Leo threw his arms around me in an ecstatic hug. Ethan, we did it again. I'm tired, I said, the adrenaline fading. I want to go home. Of course. I'll have my driver, Kevin, take you. I nodded numbly. Back home, I locked the door, closed every window, and drew all the curtains, plunging the house into a twilight gloom before switching on the lamps. I went to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. She was still there, curled up. The image of her under the sycamore tree on that winter night, the 16th day of the first lunar month, flashed through my mind again. I closed the door and sank to the floor, sitting there in the silent kitchen until darkness fell completely. I retrieved a shovel from the tool shed and began to dig in the backyard, next to the rose bushes. The soil was soft, mostly sea sand, and the work was easy. I dug at an angle, tunneling under the roots of the roses. I left the shovel standing in the loose earth and went back inside. I opened the refrigerator and pulled her out. She was slender and light, and I carried her easily in my arms. But when I reached the edge of the grave, I hesitated. I sat on the ground, holding her, and began to sob again. The distant barking of a dog snapped me out of my grief. Without another thought, I lowered her into the hole. She landed face down. That felt wrong, Disrespectful. I climbed in and gently turned her over so she was facing the sky. Then I climbed out, and, weeping, I began to fill the grave with sand. Finally, I carefully replaced the patio stones over the spot. All it would take was one good rain or a strong wind, and any trace of my work would be gone. The world no longer contained a person named Chloe. Back in the house, I brewed a pot of coffee, added milk, but forgot the sugar. Too exhausted to move, I sat in the dim light, tears streaming down my face as I drank the bitter cup. Afterward, I went down to the basement. It was filled with her art. Most of the canvases were self-portraits, capturing her in 100 different moods, sometimes rendered with angelic grace, other times twisted into grotesque caricatures. There were other paintings, too, ones I never fully understood, abstract landscapes that seemed to tell a story I couldn't decipher. Surrounded by her work, I felt as if 1,000 versions of Chloe were watching me, their painted eyes following my every move. The air grew thick, heavy, and I couldn't breathe. I stumbled back up the stairs and into the yard, gasping for air. As my panic subsided, a chilling thought took hold. I might have done something incredibly foolish. Why would she want to kill me? The question looped in my mind, a tormenting mantra I couldn't silence. I prided myself on my logic, my ability to analyze situations and predict outcomes. But for the life of me, I could not find a single reason why Chloe would want me dead. For the next 2 days, I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, the last 3 years with Chloe played out like a film reel in my mind. The mental anguish became unbearable. I decided to turn myself in. The yard of the coastal police station had 2 patrol cars parked in it. I walked past them to the main entrance. The duty officer in the reception booth was not a policeman, but a security guard. I leaned against the counter. He slid open a small window. "I need to confess," I said, my voice hoarse. "I killed a woman." The guard's eyes widened. He came out and led me into his small office before picking up a phone. Soon, a young officer arrived and escorted me to an adjacent room. He sat down at a computer and began asking me for details. My patience were thin. "I murdered someone," I said, my voice level but firm. "Shouldn't you be taking this more seriously?" The young officer looked at me. "Ethan, since when did you have a girlfriend?" "For 3 years. How come I never knew about it? Why on earth would I need to report my relationship status to you? She was an artist. She didn't go out much. You said she poisoned you, and you swapped the coffee cups. Are the cups still there?" "Yes, I haven't washed them. I'm not stupid. I wouldn't tamper with such crucial evidence." The officer stood up. "Wait here. The chief is on his way. When he gets here, we'll all go to your house and take a look." The chief arrived on a small electric scooter. He was a man in his 40s, small in stature, but with a booming voice. "What's all this about?" "Ethan, you haven't caused me this much trouble since you moved in. What is it this time?" The young officer replied. "He says he killed his girlfriend." The chief looked at me and chuckled, a strangely warm expression on his face. "Ethan, when did you get a girlfriend?" His condescending tone irritated me. This was not how one should treat a criminal. It was more like placating a child who had misbehaved. 3 years ago. It was the 16th of the first lunar month. I found her huddled under that old sycamore tree on the south side of the coastal highway. The wind was fierce that night, and she was shivering. You know the one, right? The massive tree it takes 3 people to wrap their arms around. It blooms with white flowers in the spring. All the local women pick them, though I have no idea why. Maybe they were bees in a past life. The chief turned to the young officer. "Stop taking notes. Let's go to the scene." The 2 of them drove me back to my villa in a patrol car. The coffee cups were still on the dining table. The chief looked at them. "Which one had the poison?" I pointed to the cup on the opposite side. "That one." I then turned and gestured toward the stairs. I was standing right there when I saw her put something in it. The chief scratched his head, sending a flurry of white flakes onto his shoulders. It was a disgusting sight. "Could you please stop that?" I snapped. "I have a thing about cleanliness." He simply brushed the dandruff from his shoulders, sending it dancing in the sunbeams that filled the room. I had to cover my nose and mouth. "Bag both cups," the chief said, "and don't mix them up." The young officer carefully placed each cup in a separate evidence bag, labeling them meticulously. "Ethan, where did you bury the body?" I led them to the backyard and began lifting the heavy concrete paving stones. Tears streamed down my face as I pointed to the disturbed earth. "She's down there. You have to find out why she tried to kill me. I was so good to her. That day, July 3rd, it was her birthday. I even bought her a gift." The chief and the young officer started digging. I crouched nearby, watching and weeping. The sandy soil gave way easily, and soon they unearthed the body from beneath the rose bushes. The chief pulled it out onto the grass. He stared at it for a moment, then pointed. "This is your girlfriend? How much did she cost you?" The young officer burst out laughing. "See? I told you we can't believe a word he says. But I'll give him this. The quality is pretty good. Imported, right?" I stared at what lay on the ground. It wasn't Chloe. It was a life-sized plastic doll, its painted eyes staring blankly at the sky. "Impossible," I stammered, shaking my head. "Someone must have tampered with it. I'll show you her work. Her paintings." The chief started scratching his head again. "Ethan, your condition has been stable for years. Have you had some kind of shock recently?" "Chief Miller, please believe me. Just come with me. You'll see." I led them down to the basement, to the gallery of her life's work. "She painted all of these," I said, my voice rising with desperation. "Look, this is the proof she existed. I'm not making this up." Chief Miller looked at me, his eyes filled with pity. "Ethan, you painted these. You suffer from delusions." "No, I'm a screenwriter and a creative consultant. How could I have delusions? Everyone knows you're ill, Ethan, but they also know you're brilliant. If you don't want to go back to the hospital, we can just drop this right now. I'll pretend none of this ever happened." "Chief Miller, listen to me," I shouted. "Chloe tried to kill me. She poisoned my coffee, and I made a terrible mistake. I switched the cups. She died, and I hid her body in the refrigerator. That night, I buried her under the roses. Someone must have found out and swapped the body for this doll. Ethan, you're not well. I strongly suggest you seek treatment. You're having another episode." "How do you explain the paintings?" "I've never learned to paint. I don't know how." "You never learned to play the piano either," the chief countered, his voice loud. "But you entered a competition and won first prize. You're a genius, Ethan. You have multiple personalities. Don't you understand? Please, just believe me. These are my paintings. I'm busy with work all day, and at night, Chloe and we were together. When would I have had the time to paint all of this?" "Then you suddenly learned screenwriting, and you became a massive success. Look at yourself, you're exhausted. You must have been painting at night. The fact that you can paint doesn't surprise me in the least. At this point, if you told me you'd built a space shuttle in your backyard, I'd probably believe you." "Impossible. Someone tampered with the evidence. Chief Miller, I swear on my life." Chief Miller, though small, could be incredibly stern. He pointed a finger at my face. "Ethan, if you can't control yourself, I'll have no choice but to commit you. If you don't want that, you will not mention this again. You need to think about this logically. Do you really believe a woman could live with you for 3 years without leaving the house? She never ordered anything online, never made a phone call. Did she not have a family? She had no family. Her parents were dead. She only had a grandfather who lived with her uncle. She wasn't in contact with them." Chief Miller shook his head. "Ethan, don't you remember that you're sick?" "I suppose not. Last time, you didn't think you were Ethan. You thought your name was Arthur, a concert pianist. And you played beautifully. This time is different. Now you're a screenwriter." "Chief Miller, why can't you just believe me this one time? You should be the one believing me. Let's go upstairs. It's cold and damp down here." Upstairs, the chief had me sit on the sofa. "Where are your pills?" he asked. "In the nightstand in my bedroom." I pointed upstairs. "I haven't taken them in a long time. I felt I didn't need them anymore." "Go get his medication," Chief Miller said to the young officer. The officer returned with the bottle, and the chief watched as I swallowed 1.5 times my usual dose. "You'll sleep now," he said gently. "When you wake up, you'll feel better. Go on, go to your room." On my way upstairs, I paused at the walk-in closet. I opened the door. It was filled with Chloe's clothes. This couldn't be a delusion. How could 3 years with Chloe be something I just imagined? In the bedroom, I took out the new phone I had meant to give her. I turned it on and set the password using her birthday. After it was set up, I remembered her old phone, the one with the shattered screen. If I could find that, it would be undeniable proof that she was real. She always kept it in her nightstand drawer. I immediately got out of bed and searched the drawer. It was empty. Confusion washed over me. I began to doubt myself. Was it possible I was wrong? Was Chloe truly a figment of my imagination? Were the paintings in the basement all my own work? My God, what had I been doing for the last 3 years? Half an hour later, the medication took hold. My eyelids grew heavy, and I fell into a deep sleep. I woke to darkness. Downstairs, Chief Miller and the young officer were at the dining table, eating bowls of noodles. "Feeling better?" the chief asked as I appeared. "Yes, the sleep helped a lot." They finished their noodles quickly. The young officer went to the kitchen to wash the bowls and tidy up. As I watched him, I thought of Chloe again. Deep down, I still believed she was real. Chief Miller made me promise to take my medication and instructed me not to work for a while. He called my company right then and there, his tone authoritative as he demanded I take a month's leave. After they left, I locked the main gate. The next morning, I gathered all the paintings from the basement and stacked them under the eaves of the house. It made a massive pile. I added the plastic doll and all of Chloe's clothes and shoes to the heap. I was beginning to accept the probability that Chloe was a delusion and that I had likely painted everything myself. I called a moving company and told them to haul everything away and dispose of it as they saw fit. As one of the young movers was carrying a portrait, he paused. "Hey, I think I've seen the girl in this painting before." I froze, but said nothing, listening with a numb stillness. The other mover chimed in. "You remember? About 3 years ago, early summer. We moved her from the development zone to a new apartment in Harborview. I remember her clearly, especially that little mole by her eye." The first mover slapped his thigh. "That's right. Her name was Chloe. I even saved her number, tried to add her on social media, but she never accepted." I shot to my feet. "Her number? Her social media? Can I see it?" The young man pulled out his phone. I hastily copied down Chloe's number and searched for her profile. The name associated with the number was Run Chloe Run. "Stop," I yelled. "Bring everything back inside. I'll pay you for your time." "What's going on, sir?" one of them asked, confused. "You don't want us to take it anymore?" "No, unload it. Please." After the movers left, I jumped in my car and sped to the police station. I burst into Chief Miller's office, thrusting my phone in his face. "Look, this is Chloe's phone number, and this is her profile. She's a real person. I even know her birthday, July 3rd, 1995. She exists. It's not a delusion. You have to investigate." Chief Miller stared at me. "I was just about to call you. The lab results for your coffee cups came back. No traces of poison. You can come and get them. A name, a phone number, a social media profile, a birthday. Can't you run a check? And she's from Sichuan. She has very fair skin." "Have you taken your medication?" he asked, his voice weary. "Yes, but the phone number is real. I have witnesses. 2 movers saw her. They helped her move from the development zone to Harborview. She bought an apartment there." "Which moving company?" "I found them online. I can't remember. Wait, I have the call log." I scrolled through my phone but realized the call had been routed through a proxy number on a classifieds website. When I tried to find the company's listing, I couldn't remember which one it was. "Hold on," I said, running out to my car. I returned with one of the portraits and slammed it down on his desk. "This is what she looks like. Look her up." Chief Miller slowly sipped his tea. "I think it's time we get you some professional help for a while." I locked his office door from the inside. "Chief Miller, just run a search on your computer. Please. Sichuan native, name Chloe, date of birth, photo, phone number. If you find nothing, I'll give up. Put the painting down and go home. I have real work to do. I'll look into it when I have time," he said, standing up. "I'm not leaving," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm watching you do it. If you don't, I'll die right here." I pulled a small utility knife from my pocket and held the blade to my chest. "Please, Chief, just trust me once. It won't take long." He looked alarmed. "Ethan, calm down. Don't do anything foolish. I'll run the search right now." He sat down and entered the information into the national database. Chloe's profile appeared instantly. He compared the official photo to the portrait, his eyes widening at the mole by her eye. It was unmistakable. He then cross-referenced her name with the missing persons database. A hit. Chloe, reported missing 3 years ago by her uncle. The report included several clear photographs. The resemblance to the painting was uncanny. He shot up from his chair. "Ethan, where is Chloe?" "She's dead. I poisoned her and buried her under the rose bushes in my backyard. But when we dug her up, it was a doll. You were there. You know this. But there was no poison in the cups." "I know she died," I cried, clutching my head. "She died right in front of me. I'm so confused. Just give me some time to think. Something isn't right." The chief gently took the knife from my hand, folded it, and placed it in his desk drawer. "Tell me everything again," he said calmly. "Every single detail." I recounted the events of that horrific morning. He didn't bring any other officers, just followed me back to my house. He surveyed the living room. "If someone lived here for 3 years, they would have left traces. Let's look." We searched the entire villa for hours, but found nothing. "Are you absolutely sure she lived here for 3 years?" he asked. I am 100% certain. She spent most of her time in the basement, painting. We went down to the cellar. As we examined the canvases one by one, a particular painting caught the chief's eye. It depicted a black sedan, the Volkswagen logo clearly visible. The license plate was rendered, but too blurred to read. Behind the wheel was the face of a lean, handsome man, and on the hand gripping the steering wheel, a gold signet ring glinted. "Who's this?" the chief asked. "I don't know," I said, shaking my head. "Chloe painted it." Then I spotted another painting in the corner. It seemed to feature the same car. I pulled it out. It was the same sedan, parked next to the giant sycamore tree by the road. In the painting, the tree was in full bloom with white flowers. But the scene was dark, rain lashing down, the car windows streaked with water. A scene from a stormy night, illuminated by lightning. Chief Miller murmured. "Do you know this tree, Chief?" I asked. "Of course I do. I used to play marbles under it as a kid. But now I have a suspicion, Ethan. I think Chloe might have died under this tree. But she lived with me for 3 years. I'm the one who poisoned her." "Ethan, you painted these." "Chloe went missing 3 years ago, in the summer." No. I found her under that tree on the 16th of the first lunar month. It was a freezing winter night. The wind was howling, and she was wearing nothing but a summer dress. A girl from Sichuan, in a thin dress, on a northern coastline in the middle of winter. Does that sound normal to you? "That's why I took her home," I insisted. Chief Miller didn't argue. He took me back to the station, gathered 3 young officers, and we drove to the sycamore tree on the coast. "I found her right here," I said, pointing to the base of the massive trunk. "Dig," the chief commanded. The officers began to shovel the earth. Less than 2 feet down, they hit a large woven sack. When they opened it, they found a set of skeletal remains, badly decomposed. But clutched in the skeleton's hand was a mobile phone with a shattered screen. Someone snapped a pair of handcuffs on my wrists. Chief Miller strode over to me, grabbing my collar. "You killed her, Ethan." "I'm almost certain of it now." I covered my face with my cuffed hands, shaking my head. "I don't know. I really don't know. How can this be?" "We'll confirm the identity first," he said. They found a wallet with the remains, containing an ID card, a social security card, and bank cards. The chief looked at them, then back at me. "It's her. We'll need DNA confirmation from her family, but it's Chloe." "This isn't right," I mumbled, my mind reeling. "We lived together for 3 years. She was a painter. We were in love. Why did she poison me?" "Oh, I think I understand now. She wanted me to join her. She's a ghost, isn't she? She wanted me to become a ghost, too, so we could be together." "There are no ghosts, Ethan," the chief said, his voice hard. "You killed her. The only ghost is the one in your head." "Do you really think I'm a killer?" I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Why would I kill her? Did we have a grudge? Did I kill her in a fit of passion? A man like me, do you think I'm short of female companionship? I have no motive." "I know you don't seem to have a motive," he sighed. "You're a famous screenwriter, a wealthy man. By the way, don't you own a Volkswagen?" "I own a Phaeton." I corrected him. "Is that or is that not a Volkswagen?" I could only nod. "The car in your paintings is your car. Chloe got into your car, you brought her here, and you killed her. It was a rainy summer night. You buried her under this tree. How else can you explain the paintings? How else would you know the body was here?" He pointed at the ground. "I didn't know the body was here. I found her here, on the 16th of the first lunar month, 3 years ago. We lived together for 3 years. The other day, July 3rd, was her birthday. I saw her phone screen was shattered, so I bought her a new one as a gift." "How did you know her phone screen was shattered?" the chief demanded, his eyes boring into mine. "I saw it." "How could you see it when it's been buried for 3 years?" he yelled. "You buried it. You killed Chloe, and then you hallucinated a new one, and you painted the entire crime scene, didn't you?" "Your analysis is logical," I conceded, my head spinning. "But I still don't believe I could kill a young woman. That man in the painting, the one with the gold ring, his face is different from mine, and I don't wear a gold ring. You imagine him too, Ethan. You killed her, and then you invented a killer to absolve yourself of the guilt and fear." I scrubbed my face with my cuffed hands. "If you put it that way, maybe I did kill her. Your reasoning makes sense, but I can't remember anything about it. What was I doing on a stormy summer night 3 years ago? I just can't remember." Chief Miller pulled me toward his car. "We need to go to Chloe's apartment. She bought a place, moved in, and then was never seen again. Her uncle reported her missing because she stopped sending money to her grandfather. The local police just filed a report." "Why didn't they investigate?" A grandchild has no legal obligation to support a grandparent. Her uncle was just complaining. The police tried her phone, but it was disconnected. They assumed she just wanted to cut ties with her family. Legally, her grandfather was her uncle's responsibility, not hers. We drove into the city. A locksmith opened the door to Chloe's apartment, releasing a cloud of musty air. The day it rained, she closed all the windows, went out, and got into your car, the chief said, watching me closely. Try to remember, Ethan. The car in the painting doesn't look like a Phaeton. It's smaller, like a Jetta or a Passat. That's not important. What's important is that you know everything. Of course I know everything. I snapped, my frustration boiling over. We lived together for 3 years. I didn't paint those pictures, Chloe did. I checked your credit card records from 3 years ago, the chief said, his voice flat. You purchased a high-end, custom-made doll for 68,000 yuan. On the 16th of the first lunar month, a delivery driver met you on the side of the coastal highway and helped you load a very large box into your trunk. I don't believe you, I whispered. It's a fact, Ethan. We're almost certain you're the killer. All we're missing now is direct evidence. If I did it, I'll accept the consequences. Just execute me and get it over with. This isn't a game, he sighed. I don't have any direct evidence, not even a confession. Can you tell me how you killed her? Just tell me how you did it, and I can send the case to the prosecutor. I don't know, I said, shaking my head. I really don't remember. I want to know the truth as much as you do. Even if it means I'm the killer, at least I'll be free. Chief Miller stood up and began pacing the living room. Just then, a woman from the Criminal Investigation Unit entered. She had short hair, a sharp, intelligent face, and was dressed in plain clothes. The moment she sat down, I looked at her. Can you do hypnosis? Maybe I can remember something in a dream. My name is Detective Evans, she said. You're Ethan, correct? I nodded. She produced a copy of my ID. Then who is Arthur Lee? The photo was clearly me. I think that's me, I stammered. Your real name is Arthur Lee. 3 years ago, you didn't think you were Arthur, and you didn't think you were Ethan. You thought you were a concert pianist named Julian Croft. Do you remember? You bought this villa. Then, after that summer, you quit music entirely. You suddenly developed an interest in screenwriting and became a success under the name Ethan. My name is Arthur Lee? I asked, completely bewildered. No. When you killed her, you thought you were Julian Croft. We found Chloe's diary. She wrote about meeting, getting to know, and falling in love with you. She said she'd fallen for an older man, a musician, who gave her a phone for her birthday. Detective Evans handed me a photo. This phone, the one we found with her body. We have the purchase record. It was delivered to the box outside your gate. You can check your own order history. I pulled out my phone, opened the app, and searched my orders. There it was. At the time, it was a top-of-the-line model. It cost over 8,000. How do you explain all this? She asked. It looks like I did kill her. But why? Was I married? Think, Arthur. How did you kill her? The specific method. A knife? A rope? Did you strangle her? You really don't remember anything. I lowered my head, straining to recall, but there was nothing. When I thought I was Julian Croft, was I a violent person? You couldn't know all these details unless you did it yourself, she said. I've studied your paintings. Apart from the portraits of Chloe, they're a record of your time together, including what happened on that rainy night. But they aren't direct evidence. I need your confession. I'll cooperate. But you can't remember anything. The only way to find out is for you to become Julian Croft again. You have to let the musician out. She walked to the grand piano, lifted the cover, and played a few notes. Sit down. See if you can find him. I sat at the piano, staring at the keys, completely lost. I can't, I said, shaking my head. But all the evidence pointed to me. The car, the tree, the doll, the broken phone. I knew, with a sickening certainty, that I was the killer. I buried my face in my hands and began to weep. But why did I kill her? I don't understand. I need an answer. Please, give me an answer. I leaped to my feet, and 2 officers immediately grabbed my arms. Someone pressed me against the table, and I felt the sharp prick of a needle. Drowsiness washed over me, and I collapsed into darkness. I woke up in my bedroom. The curtains were drawn. Detective Evans was sitting at my computer, typing. I switched on the bedside lamp. You're awake, she said. Hope you don't mind me using your computer. I have no secrets left. Did you find anything? I used your phone to access your online banking. You transferred a large sum of money, 830,000, to a man named Caleb Shaw. Do you know him? Just then, Chief Miller entered and threw open the curtains, flooding the room with blinding sunlight. "We found Caleb Shaw," he announced. "He's a real estate agent. The money was for a house. The house in Chloe's name." Detective Evans turned to me. "You bought Chloe that house. You were in a serious relationship by then. Do you remember any of this?" "Is this amnesia?" I asked. "I have no memory of it." "You have a classic, if extreme, case of dissociative identity disorder," she explained. "You're running from something. Most likely, the fact that you killed Chloe. I spent over $800,000 on a house for her. That's how much I loved her. Why would I kill her?" "Perhaps you found out she was cheating on you," Detective Evans suggested, swiveling in the chair to face me. "That's my latest theory. We find the other man, and this case is solved. The problem is, Chloe's been dead for over 3 years. Finding him will be nearly impossible." "Makes sense," Chief Miller added, leaning against the windowsill. "Crimes of passion. You find out she's betrayed you. You snap. You drive her out to that tree and kill her. Think hard. What did you kill her with?" "As long as you can tell us how you killed her, we can prosecute," Evans said. "But you can't. If there was another man, then yes, I could have killed her," I said, my mind flashing to the painting. "Could it be the man in the painting? The one with the gold ring?" "It's possible," Evans said. "Maybe you saw Chloe getting into his car. You saw his face, the ring. You realized you'd been deceived, and you killed her." I shook my head. "I would have killed them both. I wouldn't leave one alive. That's not my style. If you're going to kill one, you might as well kill two. Don't you agree?" The two officers exchanged a look. "I'll take a team back to the sycamore tree," the chief said. "If we find another body with a gold ring, we'll have a breakthrough." After the chief left, Detective Evans and I went down to the basement. Two officers tried to follow, but she waved them off. We stood before the painting of the handsome man with the buzz cut. "That car doesn't look like your Phaeton," she remarked. I peered closer at the license plate. "The color of the plate, it doesn't look blue. It's a night scene, illuminated by a flash of lightning. Colors can be distorted," she reasoned. "Even at night, I know a license plate is blue. I wouldn't paint it white. The car is boxy, like an old Santana or Jetta," she mused. "If there was another man, he drove a car like that. You realized he and Chloe were conning you out of your money, and that was your motive. Then they deserve to die," I said coldly. "But I have a question. I'm a successful musician who drives a Phaeton. Why would she cheat on me with a guy who drives a Jetta?" Detective Evans chuckled. "You want the truth, don't you? We'll have to find it together. If the chief finds another body, we'll be one step closer." "If I killed him, I would have buried him nearby," I said, a strange certainty in my voice. "Not in the same grave, but maybe 10 or 15 meters away, under that smaller tree to the south." Chief Miller and his team dug for a day and a half. They found nothing. He returned, exhausted, and collapsed onto the sofa. "Nothing. Looks like the other man is still alive. Or buried somewhere else." The painting was now hanging in the living room. "I don't think that's a Phaeton," Detective Evans said, staring at it. "The proportions are wrong. It's a Santana or a Jetta. So we're looking for a guy who drives an old VW. And our only clue is a gold ring," the chief groaned. "And if he exists, why didn't he report Chloe missing? Unless he's dead too. Could you have buried him somewhere else?" Evans asked me. "I might have burned him," I said, a chilling thought surfacing. "This house has a boiler room with a large furnace. I could have dismembered him and fed him into the fire." "Have you always tended the furnace yourself?" "I don't like people in my house. And I enjoy the work. The roar of the flames, the heat on my face. I've always liked fire." "That complicates things," the chief sighed. "A furnace like that could destroy all evidence. And it's been too long." "The gold ring wouldn't burn," Evans pointed out. "Where do you keep the coal ash?" "It's long gone. A couple from a nearby village hauled it away in their tractor to use as insulation for their house." I just shook my head and smiled faintly. "Even if I knew who they were, you can't just tear down their house to look for a gold ring, can you?" "This is not a joke," the chief roared. "Chloe's family is at the station. Her grandfather knelt before us, begging for justice. And you can smile. If there was another man, they both deserve to die," I repeated. 3 months later, the investigation was at a standstill. I was sent to a psychiatric hospital for a month, after which Leo pulled some strings to get me released into his custody. For a long time, I didn't leave the house. I just wrote. The following spring, when the sycamore trees bloomed, I finished my best screenplay yet. This, of course, was why Leo had bailed me out. One day, I received a call from Detective Evans. "Ethan, it's me. The apartment in Chloe's name is up for sale. It's listed with every agent in the city. For $1.2 million. I'm just letting you know, if you want to sue to get it back, Now is the time. Once it's sold, it'll be much more complicated. I don't want it back. But thank you for letting me know. After the call, I browsed the real estate listings and found the apartment. I called the agent. I want to buy it, I said. I don't need to see it. I'll pay in full, and I want all the furniture. Please notify the seller to arrange the paperwork as soon as possible. The next day, I went to the agency. I expected to meet Chloe's grandfather, but instead, I met a middle-aged man holding a notarized power of attorney. He introduced himself as Marcus, Chloe's cousin. As we were signing the contracts, my gaze fell to his left hand. And there it was, a thick, gleaming gold signet ring. In a flash, it all came together. The paintings, the fragmented memories, the logic of it all. Chloe's only living relatives were her grandfather and her uncle's family. With her dead, her grandfather would inherit the apartment. But who would really benefit? His son, Marcus. I took out my phone and nonchalantly took pictures of the contract, the property deed, and the power of attorney, making sure to capture the ring in the frame. How did you get here? I asked casually. I drove, he said. Outside, a Hyundai Elantra was parked at the curb. When did you get the car? I asked. About 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly when. The transaction was swift. As we parted ways, I immediately tried to call Detective Evans. She didn't answer. I drove directly to the Criminal Investigation Department, but she was away at a training seminar. She called me back late that afternoon. Ethan, I was in class. What's up? I found the killer, I said, my voice electric with certainty. I have the proof. Get on the next train to Tianjin. I'm driving there now. We'll meet up. Ethan, are you having an episode? Tell me what's going on. I am 100% sure. If you trust me, I'll see you in Tianjin. I'll pick you up at the station. Ethan, don't mess with me. I have no leads. How could you have found the killer? I'm not in the mood for jokes. If you don't believe me, I'll handle this myself. Don't do anything stupid, she said quickly. I'm on my way. I met her at the station just after 7. In the underground parking garage, I showed her the photos. He has the motive, I explained. He found out his cousin Chloe bought an apartment, so he drove down, killed her, buried her under the tree, and drove back the same night. He waited 3 years, and now he's finally collected his 1.2 million. If this is true, how did you know? She asked. How did you paint those pictures? Does it matter? What you need to do is check if Marcus used to own a Santana or a Jetta. He must have sold it and bought the Elantra right after the murder. I can't wait until tomorrow, I said, my voice tight with urgency. I need to know now. I grabbed her hand. Now. She made a call. We waited. 40 minutes later, the confirmation came back. 3 years ago, Marcus had sold a 2002 Volkswagen Jetta. It had a personalized vanity plate from a short-lived government program, WG0007. A white plate. The white plate, I whispered. It was him. We have to go get him now. We need to collect evidence. I am the evidence, I said, starting the car. I'm going to kill him. You're insane, she yelled. Calm down. Murder is not the answer. Do you believe in ghosts? I asked her, my eyes fixed on the road. Chloe has been with me for 3 years. If I die, we can finally be together. There are no ghosts. Maybe you witnessed the murder, Ethan. The trauma was so great that you blocked it out and created a new reality for yourself where she was still alive. You couldn't accept that she was gone. Maybe you're right, but I don't care anymore. We found his apartment building easily. I held a folding knife in my hand. Don't try to stop me, I warned her. I knocked on the door of apartment 17. A woman's voice asked who it was. Building management, I said. The door opened to a party. A large table was laden with food, surrounded by laughing men and women, his friends, his parents. They were celebrating. Is Marcus home? I asked. He appeared, his face falling when he saw me. It's you. Is there a problem with the apartment? I walked straight up to him, grabbed him, and plunged the knife into his stomach. The room erupted in screams. As I pulled the blade out, he clutched my hand, his grip surprisingly strong. 3 years ago, I said, my voice cold and clear. You went to the coast, you killed Chloe, and you buried her under the big sycamore tree. Tonight, it's your turn. The color drained from his face. His grip weakened. His eyes filled with terror. Just as I raised the knife again, Detective Evans burst in with building security, and they swarmed me, pinning my arms. Marcus collapsed to the floor, whispering, It's over. It's over. I heard the news of his confession from my room in the psychiatric hospital. The motive was just as I'd suspected. He had bludgeoned Chloe to death with a hammer. Leo bailed me out again. The first thing I did was sue to recover the $1.2 million. With the real estate agent's testimony that the house was intended as a prenuptial gift, the court ruled in my favor. I went to Sichuan, brought Chloe's grandfather back to the coast, and set him up in Chloe's apartment with a full-time caregiver. "I'm your grandson-in-law," I told him. "I'll take care of you." When it was all done, Leo drove me home. "You need someone to look after you," he said. "Detective Evans seems like a good fit." I just laughed. Don't wish that on her. Tomorrow is July 3rd again, Chloe's birthday. I took out the phone I bought for her last year, turning it over and over in my hands. Were the last 3 years truly just a delusion? I fell asleep late, aided by medication. In the morning, I heard a familiar voice calling my name. "Ethan, Ethan." I got out of bed and slowly walked downstairs. Halfway down, I saw her. Chloe was sitting at the dining table, a smile on her face. "Ethan," she said, "I've been calling you." My mind spun, trying to make sense of it. But then I just smiled back. "Wait right there." I ran upstairs, grabbed the gift box from my drawer, and came back down. I sat across from her and slid the box over. "A little something for your birthday," I said. "Open it and see what it is." Is this a delusion? I think, therefore I am. By that logic, if I believe something exists, then for me, it does. Suddenly, the front door opened, and Detective Evans walked in carrying a bag of groceries. The moment she appeared, Chloe vanished. Evans sat down in the chair where Chloe had been. "You knew I was coming? Is this coffee for me?" I glanced at the closed basement door. She took a sip of coffee, then noticed the box on the table. "What's this?" "Open it and see." She opened it, and her face lit up. "My phone has been acting up. How did you know? Is this for me?" I nodded. She beamed, a genuine, happy smile. Together, we went down to the basement. Chloe wasn't there, but there was a new painting on an easel. It was a portrait of Detective Evans. "Did you paint this?" she asked, her voice soft. I looked at the canvas, at the life captured in the brushstrokes. "I suppose I did," I said. We stood before the painting for a long time. Later, she brought it upstairs and hung it in the living room. After that day, Chloe never appeared again. Detective Evans came over every morning, bringing breakfast and brewing me a strong cup of coffee. And I was no longer a screenwriter. I had become a painter,